Okay, our homework for tonight on Tuesday, 2 February 2nd, is going to be review for math. I know this first question is very hard to see, so I'm going to read it to you. If Darrell took 3 weeks to read a book, 3 weeks. In the first week, he read 1/4 of the book. First week. He read 1/3 of the book in the second week. We want to know how much he read to finish the book in the third week. So remember, he took 3 weeks to read the book, a full whole book. He read 1/4 of it in the first week, 1/3 of it in the second week. How much did he read in the third week? Pause and try to solve it. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's this book that this guy read, right? Here it is. He read 1/4 of it in the first week. Then he read 1/3 of it in the second week. And my picture doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to see so you guys understand it, right? We need to know how much he read in the third week to finish it, right? So this is kind of a multi-step problem. We need to find out, first of all, how much did he read in the first 2 weeks? So we've got to add those together, right? So you would take 1/4 plus 1/3. Remember, to add, we need a common denominator, which would be 12. 4 into 12 is 3, times that 1 is 3. The common denominator is 12 here. 3 into 12 is 4, times this 1 is 4. So now if we add this up, we would get 7/12. Remember, the denominator does not change, right? Now, look what they did. I know it's hard to see, but they gave you 7/12 as a choice, right? That's to trick you. And here's why. This 7/12 is what they read these 2 days, right? We need to know the answer to this part. So don't trick yourself and not realize there's another step, right? So the part that they finished reading out of this 7/12, that's the first 2 weeks. The rest of the way to the 12, between the 7 and the 12, is what they read in the last week, right? So you would just start at the 7 and count up till you get to the 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that would give you 5/12 is what they, because if you do 7 plus, that gives you 12/12, which equals the one whole book, right? I know I'm going backwards with this. And look, 5/12 is one of your answers. So they put that in there just to see if you'll pay attention to the multiple steps in this problem. And that's why I feel like you've got to draw this out so you can see it and think about it, right? Okay, that is number 1. Make sure you put B for number 1. All right, number 2. Which of the following numbers is equivalent to 28,710? Pause the video and decide. Okay, here's the key with this one. Numbers. That's your first clue to realize that there are more than one answer. So let's take a look. 10 to the 4th power is a 1 with 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 10 to the 4th is 10,000, right? And we're multiplying that by 2.871. Now, remember, if you know the rules, you just have to worry about moving your decimal point, right? So if we're multiplying this times 10,000, the number is going to get bigger, right? If you're taking 2 point something something and multiplying it times 10,000, you're going to probably get an answer in the 20,000s, right? Probably going to be in the 20,000s because 2 times 10,000 is at least 20,000. So you can just move the decimal point for the amount of zeros you have. We have 4 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There'd be another placeholder in here. And this decimal would go away, and you would get 2,870. Oh, I said that wrong. 28,710. So that would be one of your choices. Now, if you look at the next one, 10 to the 5th is a 10, is a 1 with 5 zeros. 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would be 100,000, right? Now you just did this one, so you know that the next one's going to be one more zero, so it's going to get too big. So this one does not equal. You should be able to just see that with your eyes, right? Now, remember, that's because the decimal's in the same place. Now, this next one, they've moved the decimal. Now you've got 28, but this one is 28 to the fourth, which is the same as this. So this one, you'd be moving the decimal 4 spots, and you should automatically know that you're going to get too big because look, in this one, the decimal is it's already been moved over 1, right? So these two are actually going to equal each other. And you can work it out if you have to, but you start to look for these patterns, right? 10 to the fourth and 10 to the fourth, if the decimal's already been moved, that's never going to equal this, right? So you could eliminate that one. Now, you can do these your own way. But just think about what I'm saying. See, now I got to figure this one out because now they're giving me 287.1, and I'm going 1 and 1, 2, 3. I'm moving 3 zeros, so it would be 1, 2, 3, and I'm adding in 2 zeros. So I would be getting 287,000. That's too big too, so that doesn't work. So you have too many zeros at the end, right? All right, now I've got 287.1, and I mean, we just did this one to the third power. This one's to the second power, so this one is actually going to just be this answer, right? Because we're going to eliminate a 0. So I know this one is going to go 1, 2, give me 1, 0, and that's, remember, this decimal disappears, so it gives you 2, 8, 7, and the decimal would be out here, and that equals that. So that would be one of the answers, right? And I know if this seems confusing to you, you just got to learn to move the decimals, right? And this last one, I'm going to do it nice and big. 2871. The decimal would be right here times basically 10. So I've got 1. So I'd be moving my decimal 1 spot to go out here. It would be right here. That would mean the decimal right here would disappear, and you would get 28,710. So that would be. So for number 2, make sure you put A, E, and F. You will see that on our test, probably twice. All right, the next one says Jack bought a small rug for his entryway. The rug measures 2 3/4 feet by 1.5 feet. What is the area of his rug in square feet? Pause me now. Okay, for this one, you have to know area equals length times width. That's 3rd grade. You've got to know. So to multiply these, we need to move them back into a fraction, right? So you're going to take your 2 3/4 and 1.5. And to make them into fractions and get rid of the whole number, you go 4 times the whole 2 is an 8, plus the 3 is 11/4. And 2 times 1 is 2, plus it is 3/2. So now we have 11/4 times 3/2, and you can just multiply straight across and get 33/8. Now, on your test, it makes you punch in the numbers, and it'll make you do this on the FSA. Just so we're clear, you would punch a 3 and then a 3, and that would give you 33. Then your division sign or your fraction sign, remember this is division because this is 8 into 33, right? 8 goes into 33. Is this button down here. You would click that, and it would give you a slash in there like this. And then you would put in your denominator, which is the 8. So your answer would look like that. Now, if you want to reduce this, 8 goes into 32 4 times with 1 left over. I'm pretty sure this thing would accept 4 space 1/8, but just don't do it. Okay, keep it as the fraction because it gets too confusing. And you can reduce this 1/8 can be reduced to what I think 0.125. So I mean, it would probably take that as an answer too. But I promise, when you have this where you have to enter in the choices, just get your answer and don't reduce it all the way down. Now, a multiple choice, sometimes you have to reduce it down to find the answer that makes sense. But whenever you have to punch it in, keep it as simple as possible because it will take all of the answers, but it gets very confusing when you start putting in spaces for the whole number. It's a little trickier than it's worth. So just keep it because, this is the same thing as this. And this, I'm not even sure you can type that in because I don't know if you put a space or not. I'm not even sure. So try to keep it once you've solved it as the biggest number possible, okay? Okay. Take a look at number 4. Select one value in each box to equal this. If you know the rule that we've been doing for months now, this problem should only take you about 30 seconds. Pause it, take a look at this, and pick your answers. Okay, we've done this a million times. When you multiply a fraction by 1, it's equal. When you multiply a fraction that's greater than 1, the number gets bigger. And when you multiply by a fraction that's less than 1, the number gets smaller, right? So if we take a look at these, I know these are a little blurry. This says 8/8. Well, 8/8 equals 1. So 28,391 times 1 would be equal to itself. So B is one of your answers. Now, when you look over here, 4/2. 4/2 is bigger than 1, right? Because 4/2 is 2 divided by 4. So this actually equals 2 because this 2 goes into the 4 2 times. So that is for sure going to get bigger. So the answer is going to be greater than that number, correct? And then if you look at this one, it says 8/9. Well, 9 doesn't fit into the 8 when you do division. And a fraction 8/9, it's less than 1. So you know your number is going to get smaller because you're not multiplying it by a whole number. You're multiplying it by a part of a whole, and it always gets smaller. Remember that rule? So this one is A, B, C, D, E, F would be one of your answers. And G would be one of the answers. And you have to know the rule that if it's a fraction that's less than 1, the number gets smaller. And if it's a fraction that's bigger than 1, the number gets bigger. You guys got to know that by now. It'll help you drastically. So put down B, F, and G for that answer. And number 5 is my favorite problem of all time. We've missed it on both tests tons of times. So there is no math problem to really do here. This is all thinking. So pause the video and think this through and try to pick your letters for the box. See if you can remember what I said to do. Pause it. Okay, we've reviewed this sort of problem like 10 times. Remember, you can't pick these answers up here because you have no idea. It doesn't matter. They all match up. They'll all work, right? They'll all work. You need to figure out what the question's asking you. So last week, either 6, 7, or 8 birds shared 5 or 4 bags of bird seed equally. Each bird got a certain piece of a bag of the bird seed, right? So we know that there are either 4, 4, or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. The bags of birdseed have to be one of those 2, right? And it has to be. Now, there are 6, 7, and 8 birds. So let's just go with the smallest number of birds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even if we pick the smallest group of birds, which is 6, and we pick the biggest group of bags available, which is 5, is each bird going to get its own bag? The answer to that is no, right? So if we picked 7 or 8 birds, they're actually going to get less because there's more birds, right? The best case scenario is we have 5 bags. And if it's 4, it's definitely going to get smaller, definitely not going to work. So if we pick the smallest amount of birds and the biggest amount of bags, each bird is not going to get its own bag, right? So now you need to look at the choices, and this is where you need to know the rule again. First, you need to figure out the answer based on this box first, and then you'll get the other 2. So we know in our head, each bird is not going to get one full bag, right? And this is telling you each bird got how much of a bag. So if the number is more than 1, it can't be the answer, right? Well, let's go through these. 8/5 is more than 1, right? Because 5 goes into 8 at least one time. You don't have to go further. This is basically, if you pick this answer, you're saying each bird is getting more than one bag. Well, is that possible based on our picture? It's not possible, right? So that can't be your answer. 7/4. 4 goes into 7 one time, and then there's more left over. So if you pick this answer, each bird would be getting more than one bag. Is that possible based on our picture? No. Now we have 4/7. Is it possible that we would have 7 birds right here and they would divide up and share these 4 bags? That's possible, right? 7 birds could divide that because each bird's not getting a whole. They would be getting a little piece of this bag, right? Each bird would get a piece of a bag. So that is going to be your answer, right? H is going to be your answer. And look, we can check the last one, 6/4. 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. This is basically saying each bird would get 1.5 bags. Well, does that, based on our picture, if you've got all these birds and such few bags, each bird is not going to get more than one bag, right? So do you guys see how you've got to draw this, right? When you see the problem in this format, and there's no way to know what numbers to pick here and here, you might as well skip it altogether because it doesn't make sense. You have to pay attention to the words. Bird seed equally. So each bird has to get the same amount. But if there are 6, 7, or 8 birds and they're dividing up 5 or 4 bags, none of those birds is going to get a full bag by themselves, right? Well, 3 of these answers say that a bird will get a whole bag. So none of them can be true. So now once you pick your answer of H, your answer would be H. And now you look, you've got to go get the 4 and the 7. Well, the 7 is B and the 4 is E. And those would be your answers. You guys just have to think this through, right? This is, if you're just randomly guessing on these. Now, when I draw it out, you think about it logically. Here's a little secret. When you get this problem right here, even if you don't read the words, 3 of these are either going to be a fraction or a whole number. Or 3 of them will be, all 3 will be fractions less than 1, and there'll be 1 that's bigger. Or there'll be 3 that are bigger and 1 that's a fraction. The one that doesn't fit in is almost guaranteed to be your answer. Like if they reverse this and this said 5/8, 4/7, 7/4, and 4/6, and you had a scenario like this, well, this is a fraction less than 1, this is a fraction less than the 1, and this is a fraction less than 1. So your answer is always going to be the fraction bigger than 1. Just like in this one, this is more than 1, this is more than 1, and this is more than 1. So the fraction less than 1 is going to be your answer. So you have to use those strategies, right? Because especially when they give you so many options. Now, if they didn't give you those options up there, it could change everything. But they're going to show you this problem again, and just pick the one that makes sense in the problem. You have to think it through. I know I spent a lot of time and I go over that again and again because I don't know how else to explain it to you guys or to tell you guys to think about it, because you just have to think it through and see it with your eyes, right? You have to figure out which one makes sense. Remember, there are not enough bags for each bird to get its own. So when you look at these choices, 3 of them don't make sense. All right, if you have any questions, send me an email.